Hi, hello, how are you? Thanks for being here today. Welcome if you're new. Today we're going to be talking about every book I read in September. Now, I already started filming this video a couple days ago, but just couldn't finish it. So here I am now. I am wearing the same outfit again, but I did wash it in between, so there's that. Anyways, here's past me talking about all the books I read on vacation. And I also compared it a little bit to the TBR I gave myself because before I went on vacation, I made a little TBR of what I want to read, but I ended up going in a little bit of a different direction. So here I just wanted to compare a little bit which ones I actually read, which ones I didn't read, and then just talked about everything I read on vacation. So let's get into that. And after that, me right now, future me, but I guess for you, past me, we'll talk about all the books that I ended up reading after vacation. Hi, hello, welcome back. So today I thought let's talk about all the books that I wanted to read on vacation because I made a video before I went on vacation talking about my vacation TBR, so all the books that I would like to read, plan to read, and it's safe to say I ended up reading a lot more because I think I had like 5 books maybe that I wanted to read. I ended up reading, I think, 11 books, so definitely had a lot more time to read than I figured. And I also didn't even read like all of the books that I planned to read, but rather read like 8 different ones or something. So let's firstly go through the ones that I planned to read. First one was An Ember in the Ashes, I think. I also do have the physical book, but I can't get to it right now because I would have to get up and I don't want to. I bought the book An Ember in the Ashes just before I went on vacation because I've been wanting to read it for a long time, so I just got very excited when I saw it at the store and bought it for my vacation. And I ended up actually reading it. And when I tell you, I am so surprised how I have never read this book series before because I think it came out in like 2015 or something. How was this not like I feel like this would be exactly what I would have liked back then when I was a teenager to read. So, what did I think about this book? I had such a good time reading this book. So, basically, we are living in this corrupt empire, which is not a great place to be at. And at the very beginning of the book, so this is not a spoiler, literally on like the second page maybe, our main character's brother gets taken away by the soldiers because they think he was working for a rebellion or something. So he gets taken away. And our main girl, what's her name again? I think it's probably supposed to be pronounced Leia. I don't know why I kept calling her Laia. Maybe because I really like his Dark Materials and the character there is called Lyra. So maybe I thought Laia would be I don't know. I called her like that. Anyways, so her brother gets taken away and our girl decides that she has to get him out somehow. So she ends up posing as a slave for one of the generals that is like one of the most ruthless people, soldiers. So she ends up working as a slave and she's not having an interesting time. Like, genuinely, I feel like you should really look up some trigger warnings before because these books are heavy. Like, it's really intense, very brutal. So, yeah. And then we also have this other character, Elias, and he is a soldier for the Empire, and he has to partake in these deadly trials. That's the plot, I guess. So much more happens, but I don't want to say anything else because it's really, really, really good, and I need you to experience it yourself because really this book was so good that I immediately also read the second book after. Like, I had such a good time, I immediately needed to know how the plot kept developing. And the second book was really, really, really good as well. For some reason, I haven't kept reading though. I feel like this world was so intense, and the first 2 books, I read them like back to back, that after I just needed a break. And for some reason, I haven't gotten into it again. But I really plan on finishing the series soon because it's 4 books, I'm pretty sure. So I only have to read 2 more, and I really want to read them this year. So that's my plan. But yeah, so the first book on my list that I wanted to read, I actually ended up reading. Then next, I think I said that I wanted to read Nona the Ninth because this is the 3rd book in a series, and I have already read this book actually, but I was on a reread. And before I went on vacation, I finished the first and second book. So I figured I would probably end up reading the 3rd one. But I think I also said that I'm not 100% sure if I will want to read it, just because the world is also pretty intense, and also these books are very confusing, I guess. So you're like just wondering what the hell is going on most of the time. And so it's definitely like a lot for your brain to follow all of that. And so I wasn't sure if I would actually read it. And I did end up reading a little bit and partially listening to the audiobook, but I haven't finished it yet. But I definitely do want to just finish this book because it annoys me when I start something and I don't finish it, especially because it's a good book. Like, I can DNF a book if it's bad, but this is a good one. So I will finish it. I just didn't on my vacation. Then next I wanted to read this short story called Story of Your Life. And I actually did read it. However, I have to say it's part of a short story collection that is called Stories of Your Life. And I only read the specific story that is called Story of Your Life. And I mainly read that because if you know the film Arrival, it's inspired by this short story, and the film is just intense. Like, I don't want to spoil anything because it's a really, 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 really good film. But there's some shit goes down there, okay? And I had no idea how the hell you would do this whole plot, like this insanity of a plot in a short story. I was so intrigued. So I read it and I had a really good time. I think it was written pretty well. And also I feel like it helped me get even more insight into what I already knew from the movie, I guess. So I feel like I now want to watch the movie again with the knowledge that I also now have from the book, from the short story. So yeah, I had a really good time. I didn't read any other short story in this collection though, and I feel like I really want to. So that's definitely on my TBR now. Then I also had this other short story that I wanted to read, or I think it's more of a novella. I think it's a bit longer, and it's called When Among Crows. I have started this many times and I don't know why I haven't kept reading because it sounds really interesting, but for some reason I always started at moments when I'm maybe not ready for it, when it's not the time. However, I think it's more of like an autumny vibe. I think it's a little bit more darker, more dramatic. So maybe now is the time. Maybe like now that we're almost in October, I feel like this is the time to read this type of book. So I really want to read it. And also, we just got a second book, like a second novella in this world. And I have heard that it's also pretty good. And I've also heard that you can just read the second one immediately right after the first, so that it feels more like one longer book instead of a novella. So maybe I'm gonna do that because I'm just really intrigued because I heard it's just so good. So I'm very excited. Then I also wanted to read Way of Kings, which I started that a couple months ago, like I think in maybe June. But then I had exams and term papers for uni, and so I just wasn't really feeling like reading a 1,200 page long book, which makes no sense. Like in hindsight, it makes no sense because I end up reading so many books anyway, so it doesn't make any sense to not read a long book if I'm gonna read like 3 other books instead. So I don't know. But yeah, I didn't end up reading Way of Kings. Since I already started it a couple months ago, I didn't start from the beginning again, but I read like a couple pages and I was immediately like, no, I can't do this right now. But I still plan on hopefully finishing it this year. I remember in like the other video that I did, like the vacation TBR, I was saying I'm definitely gonna read it on vacation, or like I really need to finish this book this year. Well, I still plan on doing it though. I will read it at some point. I heard that this, like the whole Stormlight Archive, I think it's what it's called, is supposed to be such a good series. So I'm gonna get there. Just give me some time, okay? Then I also wanted to read his Dark Materials because I have read these books many times and I actually read them a lot of the time on this vacation. So this is why I thought I would read them maybe again, especially because I've never read them in English and I really wanted to do that. But for some reason, I just didn't feel like reading something I already knew, which is probably why I also didn't read Nona. Like I wanted something new this vacation. I don't know why. So I didn't read that. So now let's get into the other books, like the books that I didn't plan on reading, but I actually did. And I had genuinely, like I said, I had such a good time. So let's just go through them. So like I said, after I read An Ember in the Ashes, I immediately read the second book, which is called A Torch Against the Night, I think. And genuinely, it was just so good. Like if you need a really good high fantasy, like a really good fantasy plot, no romantasy, just saying that already. Like the romance is really like this much. Like you can't even see it, to be honest. But like it was just so intense, really heavy, like I said. So the plot is definitely not with easy topics in there. Like, it's a corrupt empire and it is about classism, racism, so much. Genuinely, it has so much, and I haven't really seen that many people talk about it. So I'm here to tell you to read it. And then I also read Blood Over Brighthaven, just because I have seen so many people read this book. Genuinely, I think it came out last year, so a lot of people have been talking about it in the last like couple months. So I just heard a lot about it before, and I really wanted to read it because so far I have really only seen people love this book. Which is why I feel like, no, I don't think I feel bad. I think I genuinely was questioning the world because I did not think this book was good. Let me say this, okay? The idea for the book was really good. I just think the execution really wasn't. How do you explain this book? In this book, we follow this woman who wants to be an alchemist, or like maybe she's an alchemist, but she wants to be like in a higher position of alchemists. I don't remember what they are called. And that's that. I don't even want to say more because genuinely I feel like everything else is a spoiler. But the point is that this book, like what a lot of people talk about, is that it's really political. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't know if I agree. Because, yes, it definitely was political technically in the topic that it was about. However, I just think there's a better way to write it. Like, for example, maybe it was because I just read An Ember in the Ashes, which is, like I said, a really good book series that obviously tackles political issues in a really well way. So with this book, I was just like, I felt like a baby that was being spoon fed. Every second page, it would be like, did you notice that this is political? Did you notice that they are really mean to women and like we are feminists? Like, it was just so on the nose. It was, I don't know. I really didn't enjoy it. It felt like, imagine reading a self-help book and it's like, I have the greatest tip for you. Do you know that to be healthy, you have to drink water? Right? Right? Like, that's how I felt like. It was so obvious. Like, I know that this is about politics. You don't have to explain it to me every second page. So, I don't know. I really didn't enjoy it. And also, no, I can't say that. It's a spoiler, but like, just read it yourself and make your own opinion. I have really genuinely only seen people love this book and say how it's like such a political masterpiece, and I, for the life of me, cannot understand it. So, yeah. I just feel like if you want to read something about a corrupt world and politics, there are so many books that already do that. Like, the most obvious popular one, Hunger Games, and also, like I said, like An Ember in the Ashes. So I don't know. I just really don't understand because I think it has like a 4.3 rating everywhere. It's so popular, and I feel like I read a different book than everyone else in the world. So yeah, after that, I needed a little palate cleanser. So I read another short story called Foster. And here we follow this little girl that has to go to a foster family. I wouldn't call it a foster family actually, because she only has to go there for like a couple of weeks or this over the summer. She just left the home for a little while, but still it was just a little bit more about the family that you choose. And it was very sad but very beautiful. So I really enjoyed it. I would totally recommend it. I would also probably read it again because it's really not that long. I think it was maybe 50 pages. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. After this, I read another very popular book that a lot of people have been talking about. And it's called Our Infinite Fates. And I have been wanting to read this basically since it came out because everyone has been talking about it. So I figured now I have time. So now is the time for that. And basically, the premise of the story is that we have two lovers, I guess, people. But the whole point is that they live like 1,000 lifetimes. Like, they have lived 1,000 more, who knows how many lifetimes. And in every single one, they kill each other. So the question is why? What is going on there? Our main character doesn't really remember everything about the past. So they are kind of struggling with knowing what the hell is going on. Why are we killing each other? Why? Like, I kind of love you. Why do I feel the need to kill you? I definitely think it was very interesting. I can understand the hype. However, not gonna spoil anything, but there were like 3 chapters, I think, towards the end that completely ruined it for me. Like, just they really took me out of it. Did not really enjoy them at all. But I'm just gonna try to erase like these 3 chapters out of my mind because otherwise I had such a good time. So I'm just gonna try to forget these parts existed. Because overall, otherwise I had a really great time. I think it was a really good book. I also really liked the ending overall. I just didn't really like parts of it, you know? So overall I had a great time and I really liked it. And with this one I can definitely see why people liked it. Okay, the next book that I read is called Strange the Dreamer, and I also have been wanting to read this for a little bit. However, I did not expect to love this book as much as I did. I really, really, really enjoyed this book. So this might be my new favorite duology because immediately after I read the first one, I also read the second one, which is called Muse of Nightmares. And in this book, we follow a man called Laszlo Strange. Strange is his last name. And he is just very much a dreamer. He works at a library and he just loves to read about all the fairy tales and all the stuff that could be possible. So he really likes academia. And that's why people call him Strange the Dreamer. Kind of on the nose, but I really like the title, to be honest. And basically, in this world, we kind of have like an Atlantis. So a city that just disappeared. And also, even the name disappeared. Like from one day to the next, no one could remember the name of the city. And it was just gone. But our main character, he believes that something is going on there. And this is a mystery to be solved. And so that's what we're working with. I really, really enjoyed the book because this was literally everything that I love in a book. Like, I really like very much beautiful, whimsical, dream-like writing. I like when a book feels like a Ghibli movie. So this was everything for me. This was perfect for me. And also the second book, I really enjoyed that one as well. And I also really like with this one that there isn't any like good or bad. Okay, there's like maybe 2 characters that are like genuinely evil bad, but overall every character we get to understand them. We get to understand why they are the way that they are, and we get to relate to them, get to like grow to love them even if they are supposedly maybe bad guys. And so I just had such a good time with this because it really shows that there is no good and evil per se, but everyone does things for a reason and everyone always thinks their own reason is the right thing to do. So I really had a great time with that. So yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed this book series. I feel like it's also one that I would definitely reread again. I also got the audiobooks just so that I can listen to them again or listen to it when I try to fall asleep or something. So genuinely, I am so excited to get into this world again. And after this, I read We'll Always Have Summer. I know I said I wasn't gonna read the third book, but the problem is I have heard a lot about the third season, and I have genuinely heard that it's better than the book. And so I felt like I really want to watch the third season, but I still felt like I needed to read the third book first. I could not, for the life of me, just watch the third season. I had to read the book first. So I did, and I really did not enjoy it. It was everything I knew it would be, but I did watch the third season, and I definitely have different opinions on the show than the book. So we'll see if we're gonna talk about that again in the future. Then I read a series called Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and this is by the same author as Strange the Dreamer. And you have to know, I already read the first book, Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I read that a couple of years ago. So technically I read this book before Strange the Dreamer. And I gotta say, this is one of the reasons I was really surprised in a positive way by Strange the Dreamer, because this book series, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, it's also really good, but it's definitely more of like the typical commercial type fantasy book, whereas Strange the Dreamer feels a bit more like dreamy, whimsical, like I said, a little bit more Ghibli-esque, and you just have to go with it sometimes. So that was actually really shocking to me because Daughter of Smoke and Bone is a very strong high fantasy book. I would say more. I think it's YA, but it definitely feels like high fantasy. So we get a lot of dramatic world building. And so, like I said, I read the first book before, like a couple years ago, but for some reason, I just didn't keep reading. I just stopped after the first book, which now looking back is genuinely insane to me because I think the last lines of the book, I'm not gonna say anything, I'm not gonna spoil it, but like the last lines were insane. Like this time, now that I read it again, when I finished the first book, I jumped to the second one. So yeah, I had a really good time with this book series. How to describe the plot? So there's basically like a lot of stuff going on in the first book, so I can't really explain it that well, I feel like. But our main character is called Karu, and she has blue hair. By the way, I didn't dye it. It just grows that way. And she's an art student in Prague. And she usually gets good grade because she always draws these very like realistic looking monsters. Like they look so real. They are real. So we have these like monsters. I don't even know if I want to say what they are. But yeah, so we have these monsters. And then we also have angels. So there's like a little war going on between devils and angels, but it's not what it seems. And I really, really, really enjoyed the book series, especially the third one, but deeper into what humans see as angels and like what Christianity sees as good and evil. And it was definitely very interesting. And it just, like I said, it went really deep into different topics. So it actually surprised me because in the first book it felt a little less grand. It felt more like a chill fantasy book. And then in like the second and third, we get this gigantic, grand high fantasy war between worlds, between species. So it was genuinely so good. I had such a great time. I really enjoyed the series. I think I will probably reread it. However, I don't think I would reread the first one because genuinely, in my opinion, the first one was the weakest book because there's one plot point that I even remember. I hated that plot point the first time I read it, and it didn't get better the second time. I still felt like it was really random and I didn't enjoy it. So I think I would personally actually mostly read the second and third one again if I would reread. However, on my vacation I only finished the second one because now like we only talked a little bit about the first one and we're not gonna go deeper into the second one. But yeah, that was all that I read on my vacation. Like I said, most of these books were great. Like honestly, other than Blood Over Brighthaven, I don't think I had any books that I didn't really like. Well, we'll always have summer, but still like I had a good time reading it. So I only had like one book that I really didn't love, that I really didn't enjoy as much. So I had a really great time. Hi, I'm back again. So those were all the books I read on vacation. Now let's get into the 4 or maybe 5, I think, other ones that I ended up reading after. So I think I talked a little bit about reading Daughter of Smoke and Bone and the second book, which I don't remember the name of. Basically, pretty much immediately after my vacation, I finished the third one. I think I started it on maybe the last day of vacation and ended up getting through probably 60%, maybe. I don't know. I ended up getting through a lot on the plane. Genuinely so much that I forgot to film a video because I wanted to make a how much can I read on the plane like real TikTok, whatever. And I ended up reading so much that I genuinely just forgot to film that video because it was so good. So I'm not gonna go deeply into the third one because obviously it would spoil the first and second. But just here to tell you that I had a great time. Overall, the second and third one I really, really, really enjoyed. So then the next book that I read was called Immortal Consequences. And to be honest, I genuinely had no idea what this was about. I just saw it in my library, I think even before I went on vacation. And I think I started it a tiny bit, but just didn't really get into it. And then my time like in my library was up and I had to give it back. But then I got it again after my vacation. This was such a long random plot point that you did not care about of my life probably. So I started before vacation and then I had to give it back to the library and then I got it again when I came back. Short version. And I actually didn't realize, but I think this book just came out. Like I really don't know when it came out, but it must have just come out. So I kind of like that because I didn't see anyone talk about this book yet and I really enjoy making up my own mind before getting everyone else's views because I feel like sometimes that influences me just subconsciously. So I was very glad that I could make my own picture. And in this book, we follow 5, 6 people. I think 6. And we are basically in this school where you end up when you die. This is obviously like at the beginning of the book. This is not a spoiler. So you get there when you die. And basically only students at the age of like 17, 18 get there. And in the school, you help people like cross over to the other side, I guess, when they die or something. I don't know if I fully remember, but the point is that there's always like every 10 years or something, there's this trial that one of the people in the school gets to be a part of. And at the end, they can choose if they go to heaven, I guess, if they ascend. I don't know. It's not really explained too well. And I feel like we might actually get into it more because this definitely feels like it's going to be a longer series. But yeah, they can choose that, or they can stay at the school and become an apprentice. I don't remember. Like something of like a higher up student, I guess. And so our main characters are very intrigued by this, and all of them have a reason why they want to be the chosen one. And so that's basically like the premise. And I really enjoyed it, to be honest. I had a really good time. Like I said, I went into it no expectations, knowing nothing, no reviews. So it was a really fun experience, actually. And I definitely think I'm gonna read the second one when it comes out. Like, it didn't leave me with that big of an impact, but I definitely enjoyed it. Now, I don't know if I talked about this, but when I read An Ember in the Ashes, I cried so much. I feel like, genuinely, I don't remember the last time I cried this much. I think it probably was when I was 12 and I was reading The Half Blood Prince. I think that was the last time I remember crying that much. And then I read Ember in the Ashes and I cried a lot. I was surprised why I cried so much, to be honest. It wasn't that big of a deal in the book. And then I read Atmosphere. Now, after my vacation, read Atmosphere. I don't even know what to say. I did not expect the breakdown that I ended up having. Like, I bawled my eyes out. I was not okay. And I basically thought this would be a fun, like, not fun, but it would be a love story, a romance novel. Well, I'm here to tell you, this is not a fun, cutesy romance story. It is partially a romance story, but I would say that's not the full focus of it. So basically, we follow these astronauts, and our main character has already been to space, but she's not right now. She's actually on Earth because usually when some people are in space, a lot of the astronauts down there have to help them and like monitor everything they do, work with them a lot. So basically, that's what she's doing right now. And then this other crew is up there, and she's very close with most of them, but especially with one of them. And so basically, we have this, I guess, love story between two astronauts. One of them is in space, the other one is not. And of course, we have some troubles in space. It's not going great. We don't know if we're gonna get back down again to Earth. Genuinely, I did not expect anything from this book. The way that it ended up ruining my life. Like, it ended up making me just so emotional. I don't know. I had a really good time. And also, I should have expected it. Maybe not the breakdown that I ended up having, because that was insane. Like, I don't know if it was me, like, what the hell was going on with me that day. But the only other book that I read from Taylor Jenkins Reid before was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And that one, it didn't make me fully cry, fully bawl, but it definitely also was a very emotional book. So I don't know why I wasn't expecting. But it also made me motivated to read more of her books now, because I've only read these two and I'm pretty sure she has written more. So it definitely made me very intrigued to read more, because this was insane to me in a good way. Like, I had a great time. A painful, hard time, but a great time. Okay, then technically the last book I read was When Among Crows, but I also finished the second book on the 1st of October. So I'm going to talk about it now, because then I can talk about them together, and that's just easier than talking about it in a month when I don't remember anything, you know? So yeah, I read When Among Crows. It's a short story, like, not a short story, I think it's a novella, maybe 160 pages. It's not that long. And this was on my vacation TBR. I wanted to read on vacation, I just ended up not wanting to for some reason. But then right after my vacation, I guess I ended up still wanting to read it. And I have been wanting to read this for a long time, so I'm genuinely really glad I finally got to it, because it was so good. Genuinely, I had such a good time reading this book, and it's just always so surprising to me when someone can write such a great plot, give us such a grand, big, also very well understandable world building in such a short amount of time. That's an insane skill to me, genuinely. And you have to know, if you didn't, the author of this book, the only way I knew her was because she wrote the Divergent book series. And I have read all of the Divergent books, but it's just, I wasn't expecting a lot. Not to be mean, but like I'm so sorry, Veronica, but we know this was like the typical dystopian romances that we got back then. It wasn't anything new to me, let's say it like that. And so this one was so good because it had such an, in my opinion, really creative fantasy world. So basically, I don't even know what to say because it's so short, but in the story, we follow this guy that goes on a journey, and basically, we have these monsters, quote unquote, and monster hunters, and our character just goes on a very hard emotional journey, not just emotional, also physical, painfully journey. And these monsters, I guess, were taken from mythology. I don't remember which one right now, but I feel like it was just interesting because it wasn't like the typical, most books I read are Greek mythology, like I feel like these are pretty popular, you know? And so it was just very fun to read about a different kind of mythology that I hadn't read about before. And just like the beings were very interesting. I had a really good time. And now let's talk a little bit about the second book because, like I said, I don't want to talk about it again in a month when I don't remember. So, the second book, basically, you can just read both back to back, like I did. I'm so glad. Like, I'm really happy that I never read the first book before because I have been wanting to read it since it came out. For some reason, I didn't, and I'm so glad that I didn't because now I could read both immediately back to back. And generally, I feel like that's the best way to do it because it just felt like one book together, like they are already melting together in my mind. In the second one, we just go so much deeper into the characters because, like I said, we only have 160 pages in the first one, so it's not that easy to develop everything, even though it is pretty well developed, in my opinion. But in the second one, we just have more time. We can spend a little bit more on the family dynamics, which are not a fun time to read about, but just like it was so interesting, and especially was talking a lot about what if you disagree with your family's values. So you kind of want to distance yourself from them, but they are still your family and you love them because they taught you everything you know and they did raise you as like kind of a loving family. So it's just really complicated and really hard and was so good. I really, really, really enjoyed this, and I'm so happy that it's so short because that means I can reread it so many times without being stressed and overwhelmed like you would be with a really long book series. So, yeah, those were all the books that I read in September. I had such a good time. Like, genuinely, I feel like this was my best reading month in my life. I don't remember ever having that many 5 stars like in a month. I don't think I've ever had more than like one, maybe two, because when I read like Mistborn, I really enjoyed all of the books and I read them all back to back. So maybe there I would have like two, but I never really had more than like 1 or 2 5-star reads in a month that were not connected to each other, like that had nothing to do, were part of a series. Like it was just such a good month. So please read some of these books if you felt like they sounded interesting because genuinely, like I said, best reading month I've had in my life. I had such a good time. There were so many great books to me. Like it was just insane. Great month. Hoping that this is gonna continue through the end of the year. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for watching. Sorry, by the way, if the lighting is bad because it's literally 9 p.m. I don't know, but I just wanted to finish the video. So thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great night, I guess, and see you next time. Bye!